to go from an institution that just had, 2,000 students to 70,000 students today is tremendous growth by any metric you could think of. So UCF is a really interesting place in that you start off with just a few buildings on a campus on Alafaya, and then over the years has grown to where we now have a massive campus here in Oviedo area, and where we have multiple campuses around Orlando. We have a downtown campus, which is the most recent one to open. We also opened up, prior to that, our Lake Nona campus, which is a medical campus. And then before that even, we opened up our hospitality management campus. But it's special here in Orlando because we've grown very much the same way that this region has grown. And we are completely interconnected with the region. So our growth reflects what's happening in Central Florida, and Central Florida reflects what's happening at UCF. Many times people will try to think about, what lessons could they learn from a UCF, how we could be a model for what higher education could be. And I'd say that the challenge that a lot of other places have is they don't have truly the magic that we have, which is this region. We are here in Orlando, we're here in the whole Central Florida, we serve this region, we've always been here, and we benefit from the growth that's been occurring in the region, but we also are the supplier of the workforce that is needed for the region. And when you look at other universities around the country, they will want to look at and see, can they learn from what we did here at UCF? And I'm always honest and say that it's going to be difficult because you don't have the same conditions that we have. The boundary conditions are different. While they could learn a lot about how we do things at scale, while they could learn about, how is it that you could have a university that has 70,000 students and yet think about the individual student. That's something that we could teach them. What we can't teach them is how do they create an environment where they could have the type of growth that we've had. And that only happens because of where we are. So I think we are a great model in that we've done things differently. So there are ways that we could teach people about how do you work better with the community? How do you think about what's the needs of the region as a workforce supplier? How do you create an environment where the faculty, the staff, the students understand that what you're really trying to do is educate people, educate them so they can go out and do great things and really be able to get the jobs or take care of whatever it is that their goal is in life. I think those are the things that I think people could learn from us is focus more on the students, think about what's needed for them, think about what's needed for the region, and then how to do things at scale. UCF from its inception has been an institution that thinks about what is it that the student needs. When you think about the fact that we started with just a few small buildings and people came here and we were really this startup campus. People were showing up and trying to figure out what are they going to do, what classes they're going to take. And it created this environment where the faculty and the students had something in common, and that was they were both part of a startup. They were both part of a mission to show that we could do something different. We weren't an institution that had been around for 100 years, and the students and the faculty and the staff, I believe, all had that sense of urgency that we need to do something now. We need to help people to get their degrees because we need to contribute and help with what we were founded to do, which provide the workforce for the Space Coast. And that, I think, created an environment where over the years, I talk about the fact that that's in UCF's DNA, is that we're very student focused. Even at 70,000 students, we have not lost the desire to serve every student and make sure they're successful as possible. That is something that has happened because of how we started. Because we're a young institution, we are really that institution that knows that we had to do things with less resources. You hear the stories about people starting up, with building their own labs and trying to figure out how to work from whatever space they had. Those are the things that make for a special environment, because I feel it builds community. And that community here is not just the faculty among themselves, but the faculty recognizing the importance of our staff, how much they contribute to what we're trying to do as an institution, and both of them recognizing, of course, the importance of the students. And the students, I believe, feel also that they're part of that community. The new students who come in still see that they're part of UCF becoming the next thing that they're going to become. And I think that's how we've maintained that sense of being student-centered, being student-focused, is that it's never gone away from us that we are a startup. We're an institution that still can do so much more, and for all that we've achieved, we have even more potential. And I think all of us feel that here. That correlates with us having people who want to make sure that we provide the services that are needed for our students, that we help them to graduate, that we help them to keep their debt as low as possible, that we educate them in ways that they can be incredibly successful when they go out into industry, that whatever degree they pick, they can feel pretty confident it's going to be relevant to the industries that they're going into, and that they're going to be prepared to actually compete at that level. And we teach them about teamwork, and we teach them about working in different types of environments. Those are all things that help them to be incredibly successful. So when you hear about the student-centered part of what we do, it is about how do we make sure that they get the skills that they need, that they have the support that they need, and everybody here is always coming to work, trying to make sure we provide that. My job is to make sure that I help this place to continue to get one step further, because I feel that the next president is going to benefit from all of those alums that are being so successful, and we'll eventually get to where we're similar to our peers and have an alumni base that is at the point in their lives where they want to give back. We have an alumni base that does a lot of that, but that's a small number of people right now because our alumni base is so young. But 20 years from now, that'll be a different world. I hope that all of them will look back on their connection to this university and realize the important role that they played in it, and that they'll want to be a part of its future. When we think about the vision for UCF, we actually have to go back to the very beginning. And I find it fascinating, that even back then they came up with these interesting statements, right? Reach for the stars, right? It's always forward-looking. Go Knights, charge on. These are all statements of aspiration. These are all not standing still, that we need to be thinking about what's next. And because we had limited resources, we had to be very innovative. And I talk a lot about older universities that have been established for, say, 100 years, and I even joke about the fact that there are some universities established with endowments before Florida was even a state. And those are the universities we're competing with. And I believe that a lot of those universities, because they've been around so long, they've become what I consider to be museums of tradition. They value their traditions and they keep them dear to who they are, and they don't want to change. Well, our tradition is change. There are many universities out there that are museums of tradition, but UCF is a startup with a mission. And from the very beginning, we had a mission. The mission was given to us: provide the workforce for the Space Coast. And as time has gone by, the mission has always been connected to what do we provide for the region. And what's interesting to me is that now that the economy has grown so much in Central Florida, the number of people that move to Central Florida just keeps increasing. The need for a skilled workforce, the need for people who can contribute and continue to help those companies to move forward just keeps increasing. And so we have a mission that is, how do we train the next group of individuals who are going to help this region to continue to move forward. And right now, what's most interesting to me about all of it is that a lot of it is coming right back to our original mission of space. If you look at all the projections for what could happen in the economy as a result of the space industry, the numbers are actually in many ways almost unbelievable, right? As it's trillions of dollars potentially. And that's because we could see a world where manufacturing could be happening in space. We could see a world where people could be living in space. We could see a world definitely where people are routinely traveling to space. And we have to now start thinking about, what does that mean? How do we train the doctors, the nurses, the people, the economists that need to understand what's happening in space? I think that's, again, part of being an institution that is committed to its community, committed to its region, and thinking about where the region is headed. And when I look at that, we have an opportunity, just like we have done over the years, where we have transformed higher education by showing that you can do things at scale. You can have 70,000 students, you can have them be successful. We now are in another phase where what we can do is show that there's a different way you can work with industry. And that our vision is that we don't need a separation between the university and industry. And in fact, we believe that the future is that we would have distributed campuses, which we already have, which is ideal, and that we can make it convenient for people in different disciplines to actually get high quality education in an environment where they may be on the same campus with the employer that they have and the university that's educating them. And so we would see a future where companies are co-located with us. We're already starting to do this, and we've continued to expand this. You can see an environment like the Rosen College of Hospitality Management, which is right next to all of the main companies that are related to what they do. That is intriguing and exciting. It's something where the companies now could be on that campus on a daily basis and continue to actually benefit from those interactions. Even if you look at what we've done with our nursing building at the Lake Nona campus, from day one, the vision was that we would have Pegasus partners who would, one, help us to achieve the dream of having that building, which they did, and they all stepped up and did it. But secondly, once the building was open, that those Pegasus partners would have a presence in the building. And when you go there and you go into the atrium, you see prominently the 3 Pegasus partners that are involved with nursing. You see Orlando Health, you see Advent Health, you see Nemours. The power of that is our students see that on a day-to-day basis. They know they have opportunities as soon as they graduate from there to get a job, but whichever one makes most sense for them. And I think that's really the future, is this vision of how do we continue to be student-centric, how do we continue to be focused on what are we providing for the employers of the region, and then how do we just continue to be great partners with the region and provide what's needed. Florida system of higher education is a designation that reflects in many ways the quality of an institution. The SUS came up with a number of metrics that said you hit almost all of them, 12 out of 13, then you can be designated as a preeminent institution. When I got here, we were missing about 3 of those. We had done well on many of them, but we still had 3 that we needed to achieve. And 2 of them we achieved pretty quickly. We had to get our number of postdoctoral fellows over 200. We were at about 150, and now this year we're going to be at about 300 postdoctoral fellows in a very short period of time. It's about 3 or 4 years. And the other one was our research funding, and that we exceeded pretty quickly because we've been growing in our research funding over the last number of years. And then the one that was most challenging really was our 4-year graduation rate. And the challenge with our four-year graduation rate is that, again, the thing that is our superpower, right, is that we know how to do things at scale, is also a challenge in that if you're going to change something, you now have to change it at a scale that there are very few institutions that have done that type of change in a short period of time with that number of students. And so we were at about 50% four-year graduation rate 4 years ago. We needed to improve that to be over 60% four-year graduation rate to be preeminent. And again, in true UCF fashion, people came together, came up with a plan, and not only did we achieve it, but we exceeded it significantly. So this year, we are now at 63.8% four-year graduation rate, and we anticipate, of course, that we'll continue to be able to achieve over 60% four-year graduation rate. And in fact, the goal for the SUS system is for us to get to 70% four-year graduation rate. And because of the progress we've made, I think a lot of us feel very confident that we'll even hit that. When you come together as a group and you work so hard to really do something, like I said, that is not that easy, right? We had to have 1,000 more students graduate each year to get to that 63.8%. What does 1,000 students mean? If you think about it, each of those students now are not paying the tuition, housing, room and board. That's tens of thousands of dollars per student. That means this is millions, tens of millions for those 1,000 students. They also then go out and get a job. And so they have income, right? And their income is going to be, depending on what they are, probably on an average, we report an average of about $50,000 for income of each of those students. That's $50 million for those 1,000 students. That's real economic impact on this region. Not only the deferral of costs for those students, but also now the fact that they're getting paid if they go out to work. Some of them actually go on to graduate school, let me be clear. But the fact that they're working helps them tremendously. So while, yes, it allows us to be eligible to be designated preeminent, what it really does is it transforms lives. And so I think the great thing about saying, okay, we are an institution that is a preeminent institution, that we've done these things, is that we're able to show the impact that we're having on Florida. And we're doing that with the lowest funding of any of this system universities. That's a challenge for us. So we've had to be innovative. And we've had to figure out how to do those things. And I would argue, actually, that if we were funded at a higher level, we would even do more for the state. Because we've shown that for what you've given us, you get a great return on investment. And we believe that with additional funding, we'll give you even a better return on investment, because we could do so much more with the additional funding than others may be able to do. And so I think it's this opportunity for people to realize how great this institution is. I'll give you some examples of where I think we sometimes don't get the credit. If you look at any rating of universities that only takes into account true data. What I mean by true data is the students that are there, what types of students you have, their graduation rates, their retention rates, all the outcomes that really matter for students, how you reduce their debt that they may have, all of those metrics. If you look at those things, then there's one rating service, Niche, that does some rating. If you look at that one, we're top 33. We're number 33 in the country. If you look at Washington Monthly, we're number 17 in the country. But if you look at a ranking like U.S. News & World Report, they rank us as number 57. Why do we rank as number 57? Because if you look at even their own data that is only about outcomes, we are a top 20 institution. But they also rank us on how much money we have. And we are one of the lowest funded institutions in the country, ranking at number 385. So we have to overcome that anchor that's pulling us down in terms of resources with all of the great work that we're doing, which gets us a reasonable ranking, but it is not reflective, in my mind, of the excellence of this institution. If you look at just the data, we're a top 20 public university. And I think that's what this is all about, is really getting our story out there and letting people know the quality of this institution, the impact we're having on the region, the number of students that are graduating, the great work that they're doing, the fact that our faculty do so much more with so much less than others, that our staff do the same. They figure out how to make things work. And I'm just so honored to be a part of an institution that has that type of spirit, that we don't let the fact that we don't have the resources of others keep us down. We just keep doing what we need to do, and we just keep producing and doing great work. I think that's what the preeminence is about here, is across the country, I can't think of any institution that achieves the outcomes that we do with the limited resources that we have. And so I like to say, if you were ranking a university on outcomes per dollar, we would be the best institution in the country.